I'm Phyllis Tess, and I want to let you know that for your convenience, this is being recorded and will be available on the TAM's website, and I believe the address is going to be posted now in the chat. I know you're all very anxious to hear our panelists, so I'm going to turn this over to our dynamic moderator, and so it's with great pleasure that I introduce you all to Heather Hanson-O'Neill, President of Find Your Fire. It's all yours, Heather.
Thank you, Phyllis. Hello, everyone. Welcome. I am so thrilled to be with you here today, and we have an amazing program for you today. Before we dive into introductions of our expert panel, just want to give you a little bit of housekeeping. So, first and foremost, thank you so much to those of you who added comments and questions into the registration process. They were outstanding. And so I've stolen most of them to be able to give to our panelists today. So hopefully you will be able to leave with a nugget that you can use right away. Use the chat on the side to be able to share resources, encourage each other. But when it comes to any additional questions that you have, please specifically go to the Q&A area. This way, I'll be able to filter out what you really definitely need to know, or if you want elaboration on a particular point that someone is making, put those into the Q&A area for me, please. All right. We're ready. I'm excited. So very briefly, I am Heather Hanson-O'Neill. And yes, as Phyllis said, I have a company called Find Your Fire. I'm super passionate about the meeting and events world. Very, very excited to help those in travel to be able to get back to traveling. I'm a huge fan of it. Created a program during all of this called the Phoenix to help meeting pros in transition. Enough about me. I want to spend most of the time giving you information and answering the questions for our amazing panelists. So I'll begin with Joanne Dennison, MSCD, CMP. She is a professional nudger and an enthusiastic educator who loves flip charts. As the Meet Guide, she guides people and companies through the world of meetings and events. She's known as an educator, including 20 years of teaching for the CMP exam, and connects how to apply what you learn. As the guidance counselor for grown-ups, love that, she works with individuals and organizations to answer what's next. And that's typically where the nudging comes in, because it doesn't work if you only know what to do next. You actually have to do it. Next expert we have today is Nancy Medoff, and she is a global persuasion and influence expert who teaches professionals how to communicate their value when the stakes are high. More clients, faster promotions, the unicorn job, higher salary, more resources, or help in being recognized for key contributions. Using advanced persuasion principles, Nancy's keynotes, coaching, and workshops have taken her across 3 continents and combine practical management, insightful motivation, and authenticity. Next, we have Jessica Z. Handler, known to her clients as Jay-Z. She is a senior executive recruiter with Artemis Consultants, and she identifies potential candidates for software, technology, data, and B2B services companies, and she enjoys collaborating with hiring teams. She's effective at interpreting a company's hiring needs and matching what a candidate seeks in a career change. Now, I could go on and on about all 3 of these guest experts, but I would prefer to dive in to the questions that you have so that you can get them answered today. Now, I'm going to begin. Who do I begin with? I'm going to begin with Nancy. In your opinion, what does the recovery period look like, and how should people gear up for it? Just kind of an overview for the next year.
So thanks, Heather, and hello to everyone. I am just proud that I finally get to say that I have met Jay-Z, and everyone else on the phone can also say that as well. So diving into recovery, you know, that's a loaded question, and I'm glad you asked it. There are all kinds of projections, as there have been since the beginning of the coronavirus. In my opinion, anyone who factually states when we will fully recover has no idea. I mean, we have the vaccines, We have travel opening up a little bit. We know that leisure travel is going to come back first, followed by transients, large group last. Everybody probably knows that. To say that there's a crystal ball and to say when that will be, I believe for me would be somewhat irresponsible, but you did ask. GBTA's latest projection for a return for business travel to 2019 levels was 2025. 2025. So that is 4 years from now before it comes back full boat, full stop. Once it does, it's going to be gangbusters. So the question then is for everyone on the phone and for all of us, what do I want to do for the next year, 2, 3, 4, while I'm waiting for the full recovery? And that's what we're going to dive into today.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Nancy. Now, I'm going to do this one in a two-part here because so many different people ask different versions of this question. So I'm going to give one of them to Joanne, and this is by Pam. She wanted to know, how can a possible candidate show more industries outside the hospitality industry what skills and how they can cross over?
I think all of us run into there we go. Sorry, for a minute I thought I had myself muted right after that whole conversation. Sorry about that. So I think all of us know that we have skills. We see things that we can do somewhere else. We look at a job description or know of a job and we go, wow, I could do that. But what we don't do is do a good job of showing how they transfer. We expect someone on the other end to understand what we've done and how it relates. So what I find and I encourage and I work with people to do is look at the job from their perspective. Nobody knows what we do in travel and meetings. We know that. Our own family doesn't know what we do. So now you're asking someone in a whole nother industry to go, oh yeah, I know as a hotel person or I know as a meeting planner, you do this. So knowing what the transferable skills are by reading the new description and clearly connecting the dots in your LinkedIn profile, in your cover letter, in your resume, and of course, in turn, in the interview, it's very important that you're able to show them how you can do the job and how the skills are transferable.
I think that's very important, Joanne. Thank you so much. And Jessica, my question to you actually is very similar as far as those transferable skills go. And this one is by Michelle. When looking for an out-of-industry position and the only way to apply is via the internet, how do we communicate that way that we can transfer our skills into that industry?
Absolutely. When you are looking at a job posting, you have to look at the qualifications. Most of the hiring managers are looking for someone that's at least a 3-finger fit. If you're thinking about a glove, you need to have at least 3 of those qualifications. So make sure it says directly on your resume which skills you have or which ones are going to be transferable to those skills. My best recommendation to people is to put any achievements, accomplishments on your resume. People that are looking at your resume are not going to be reading the paragraphs of information that you put. They want to see bullet points of your achievements, your accomplishments, President's Club. If you're a salesperson, your percent to quota. Those are what you should be listing on your resume. As far as getting into different industries, it would be extremely easy for someone to be in the hospitality space and be able to transfer into travel technology or hospitality technology, even starting in entry-level positions like an SDR and having a career path to work up to. Your multitasking skills, your communication skills, that's all very transferable for those industries.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Jessica. Nancy, I'm back to you for a question that comes to us from Rebecca. What types of credentials or certifications are recommended to help differentiate some applicants from real contenders, and why?
Thanks for that question. So this might not be a popular answer, and I would love for Jessica to jump in if she, or Jay-Z, excuse me, if she disagrees with me. Certifications and credentials are great, and it's nice to have a bunch of letters after your name. I do, many of our panelists do, and I'm not mitigating that at all. I don't care if you're an MBA. I don't care what kind of degree you have. I don't care if you're a CMP. I care that you have the passion and the skills, and you have demonstrated in the past the ability to do the job. That is all. So if you want to go get an MBA or a CMP or something like that because you love to learn and it's something that you want to do and you think that skill set is going to make you more valuable, the skill set might make you more valuable, but having a bunch of letters next to your name is not going to do it.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Nancy. And Jay-Z, since Nancy called you out on that, did you agree, disagree, dissent?
I agree a little bit, and I also disagree a little bit. So it depends on what job you're applying for and what their preferred profile is. So a lot of the roles that I work on lately, at least, are technical positions, which may not apply as much to the travel and meeting space, but they're looking for specific certifications. So if you have those, make sure they're not only listed on your LinkedIn profile, but also on your resume. And this is probably something we'll talk about a little bit later too, but your LinkedIn profile needs to mirror your resume. They need to be accurate and matching, because when a hiring team sees that they don't, that's a red flag.
Love that. Great ad. And I just can't help myself. So I'm adding my 2 cents very quickly here. So when it comes to, we have the opportunity right now to be in a constant state of learning all day, every day. We can go to meeting after meeting, free webinars, free conferences. There's so much information out there that we can get. So I just want to encourage anyone who is looking to do that to really think through what you want first, to look at where you want to go, what options most appeal to you, which fit in the sweet spot of your unique skills, so that you know that you're filling the gap with the most appropriate certifications or the most appropriate learning and growth area, and not just doing everything, because that, my friends, is how you get Zoom fatigue. All right, now I think we're warm. Yes, Joanne.
I have to kind of jump in on this one.
Okay, go for it.
And I agree, and just, you know, I understand Nancy and Jay-Z's points for sure. And one of the first questions when someone says to me, should I get a CMP or should I earn this certification? You know, one of the things I ask them is, are you looking for 3 letters or are you looking to be better at what you do? And I think that's really important, because a lot of times people are ignoring, and a lot of people don't understand the difference between a certificate, a certification, and a designation and everything. But one of the things coming especially from the planner standpoint, but it's also true to a certain extent in certain supplier sides, is there are jobs that are definitely posted CMP preferred or required. And basically what it does, and even sometimes when it's not, I know because I've talked to enough people who do the searches where, you know, you're trying to get rid of that middle pile of resumes. Sorry, I still picture them as, you know, paper. And you're just looking for a reason to move them to the right. Like, yeah, I think I want to take these people further. Or no, I never want to speak to this person. And CMP is frequently the first level that they glean people out. And I'm sure it's true for other certifications too. But I totally agree with, you have to have the skill set. Don't make it just about 3 letters. You have to learn the information. You have to know how it applies it and know why you're going for it. So anyway.
I love that. That's really important. Now, I'm going to point out, Claudia, I happen to notice that you had a great follow-up question in the chat. So I'm going to let Nancy speak to it. But I do want, I just happened to glance at it. If other people have really great questions like that, please make sure and throw them into the Q&A so I make sure to address them. Okay, so Nancy, Claudia had a question that you said you'd like to answer, and it is elaborating on your comment about when you say that you care about someone's passion. And so Claudia wants to know, what is an answer that really resonates for that? Can you help her?
Thank you, Claudia. I love this question. So what you're passionate about, you should be truthful, whatever that may be. So it could be, I'm passionate about, I love details. I love details. I love planning. I am not one of those people. So let's just assume for a minute, Claudia, you are. I'm passionate about details, and I'm passionate about planning. Here's why you care. Okay, I'm passionate about details, which means I will double, triple check something, and I often catch mistakes before they happen. Or I'm passionate about details and meeting planning, which means every event that I plan is executed flawlessly, thus saving the company from embarrassment. Whatever you're passionate about, yes, you should state that you're passionate about it and tie it back to why the hiring manager cares. What is the benefit to them? Ask yourself every time you answer this question, So what? So what? And that's when you make the connection that we've been talking about earlier.
Okay, I love that. I'm so glad that we went there. Thank you both for that. Now we're warmed up, and I promised that this was not going to be a traditional panel where we're going to answer the same old, same old. So I'm going to go there. I'm going to start with Joanne. Joanne, help us out. Do
Okay.
you believe that ageism is a thing? Is it a thing? And how do we combat it if it is?
I guess it depends what you view ageism. I mean, I think the most broadest is anyone over a certain age, and it's very funny to talk to people about when they think ageism starts. But that you're going to automatically be disqualified or assumptions made about you because you are at a particular age or appear to be at a particular age. What I've discovered from looking people, I won't say it doesn't exist, but tying in a couple of things I've seen. One, I don't think it's so much about ageism as current. We have all met people who think, act in the appropriate ways, younger than their chronological age. They know what, the shows are people are talking about, or the music is talking about. They're staying current. And to me, I've decided that's one of the most important things. Are you current? Not just in your industry, but in the world, in casual conversation. Do you know what's going on? And going back to what was being said about, Jay-Z started about, things corresponding. People say to me, I don't know, should I show how old I am by how far the jobs go back or what year I graduated or something? Should I use an older picture? That's a classic. And my thought is, eventually they're going to meet you, whether it be now by Zoom or in person. And if you walk in and you are not who they think you are, they are going to question everything else you said. So I say, stay current and be honest.
Oh, love that. Now, because this is something that came up multiple times in our questions, if I'd like to just put it out there, if Nancy or Jessica would like to add on to this, I think Joanne did a fantastic job, but if either of you have anything to add here, I'll give you a quick opportunity.
I do, Jessica, but why don't you go first?
You can go ahead.
Okay. So this, to me, again, it might not be a popular answer. For those of you that know me know that I speak up. So I believe it exists, and I didn't until probably about a year ago when I started coaching some executives everywhere, finance, technology, everywhere, mostly females, but whatever, that could just be a coincidence. And there was some resume writer out there telling them to delete anything on their resume that was past 20 years old. Now, I agree you don't want to go on and on with your resume. You probably wanted a couple pages. Jessica can speak to that. You can summarize the first 20 years of your career. But what I want you to understand is that you are in the driver's seat. Do you want to work for a company that won't hire you if you're older than 50? And if the answer to that is no, then don't go work for that company. So think about what you want to do, how you want to do it. And then if the startup, hotshot, whatever, AI or whatever it is company doesn't want you because you have some gray hairs or your experience, you can't make it relevant or current, then move on.
Thank you, Nancy. I think that's an important point. Jay-Z?
I was just going to talk about the resume a little bit.
Thank you.
I would not put all years of experience if you are later in your career. I would probably use the first page to go over the last few years, maybe even 10, 15, 20 years. But after that, instead of giving a large summary on each of those jobs, I would just put previous experience and list them like bullet pointed in the dates instead of really digging into what you did 25 years ago, because that's probably not as relevant for the job that you're applying for now.
Excellent. These are all great points. And thank you all for your honesty. I love it. We did have someone coming in with an extra question here. This is Tracy, and I think it's a follow-up, Jessica, for you, because you mentioned that it's a red flag if your resume and LinkedIn profile don't match. And Tracy says that hers mostly do, but she also typically updates her resume based on the job that she's applying for. Is this something that would cause concern, or do you think that that's okay?
No, I think that would be okay. What I really mean is if you're unemployed, don't have your job on LinkedIn say that you're present, and the dates should match, the titles should match. Those types of things should match. If you tweak your resume a little bit to show a certain skill set or experience that you have, that's fine. You don't have to include all of that detail on LinkedIn. I was mainly talking about the job moves and the dates and certifications and things like that.
Excellent. That's very, very good. And there was one follow-up. Jessica, you're very popular right now. Okay, so just a follow-up to that is, would you remove dates from education in order to not give away your age?
I feel like that's pretty common for people that are later in their career. I don't think you have to do that, but I have seen it pretty frequently.
Okay, thank you for that. Now, I want to come back to Joanne for a moment here. I'd love for you to share, Joanne, how and why do you need to show how you're different? I think this is an important part and something that you specialize in, where a world where everyone might be creative or organized or has attention to detail, or, you know, right now, a lot of the qualities people can say, yeah, I do that. So how can you prove that you're different?
To just add on to what you said, so one of the things, especially when I talk to meeting planners who are working on their job search and everything, and I'll say, give me 3 words. I call them my 3 go-to words. Give me 3 words that you want every potential employer to know about you. And they'll go, I'm creative, I'm detail oriented. And I'm like, stop. If you're in the meeting planning industry, you are those things. You may be different degrees, but the assumption is if you're doing that job, that you are those things. And I'm sure there's equivalent in hotel and things like that. What you need to do is tell me why you're different. And I have found things from, you know, they're a good mentor. They work with people. They're the ones that get called into the room because they can explain things better than anyone else. Even things like bi or multilingual, just finding the things that set you apart. It doesn't mean you aren't those things. Again, the assumption would be you are creative and detail oriented and make a million lists, you know, that just goes with the territory. So find what makes you you. It's like when people say to me, well, I am a team player. Happens to be one of my hot buttons, because there's different positions on the team and I want you to tell me what position you play on the team. So you need to dig past the obvious and find what you, because that's going to be what sets you apart. And people are going to know, are you going to fit into their group based on what you said?
Love, love, love that. Yes, Nancy. I see you, honey.
So I think Joanne and I might be long lost sisters. So a couple of things that Joanne just mentioned. One, she said, pick 3 things. This is an advanced persuasion technique, and this is how you're remembered. People remember things in 3s. So to support what Joanne just mentioned, what are the 3, I think she said 3 things you want someone to know about you. And pick something that's different. Again, I'm results oriented. Everybody says that. I'm a team player. Everybody says that. So on my website, and this is not a shameless plug, this is a free tool that's available to anybody. It's called the Power Positioning Template. It's on the homepage of my website. It is free. You can download it. It's a template for you to really hone in on what are your 3 strengths, why do those matter, and so what. So it's everything we've just been talking about, all wrapped up in one. My website is athenawise.com. athenawise, all one word.com. And you can download it and then just play around with it, and it will help you. And I think what'll help you is if you default to I'm results oriented, which again, a lot of people do, I see it all over LinkedIn. This tool will make you say, okay, well, so what? What does that mean? Well, that means I always make my numbers, or that means I always do this. Well, really, that means that you always make your numbers. So it'll really help you work through it. It is my pleasure to provide that, because I, like Joanne, want to see less, you know, what everybody else is saying and more differentiation, especially now when the stakes are so high.
Excellent. Thank you, Nancy. Jill put that website into the chat area. If Joanne, Jessica, if you have any tools like that, you're welcome to put it in there. Everyone, just want to make a point that before we close out today, save the chat. There's already great information in there. I've put in there the panelists' LinkedIn profiles so that you can connect with them as well. Jessica, we had a question in the Q&A right now asking about, you know, how about if you're furloughed? What does that look like on your resume, or anything else that you might want to add to that?
Yeah, that's pretty common right now, layoffs and furloughs due to COVID-19. So I would just tell you to be honest. Put it on your resume because it's true. You should be truthful and honest. Or if you choose to leave that off of your resume, you should still have your date that you were furloughed. And then when you speak to someone in an interview, you can explain to them why you're laid off or why you were furloughed. But you have to be honest about it.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. Nancy, I had a question for you. Are you having a muting? You're good? You can unmute? Okay, because there was something about muting in there. So I had a question for you that's something that you offer in particular, so I know that you'll be able to speak to this. Which approach or strategies have you seen work for people who want to completely reinvent themselves? You know what? They're kind of a little sick of the industry, to be honest, and they just want to do something different. Do you have any suggestions for them?
Yeah, so there are a couple of options right now, as I mentioned earlier. You can download this template, which I mentioned, and that was me that put that in the chat.
Oh,
I
okay.
actually have a system set up where you can text unmute to 22828, I think is the number. Anyway, so use this opportunity, and I've seen people do this, to really think about what you want to be doing. Again, if you look at your 3 strengths, they're what you're probably most passionate about. Because you're passionate about them, you do them a lot, you enjoy doing them, you get better at them. So once you look at these 3 strengths, then go find the job that allows you to do those 3 things that you love to do, let's say 80% of the time. So instead of saying, I love sales, what is it about sales that you love? Do you like to build the relationships? Do you like to build community? Do you like to come up with creative solutions? What is it? It's not sales. It's not selling. Nobody's passionate about putting heads in beds. They're not. I did it for 25 years. I loved talking to people and really understanding what they need and coming up with creative solutions. That's what I loved. So once you figure out what it is you love to do, then you go find a job that can help you do that, rather than, I want to go be in sales. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, I'm happy to clarify a little bit.
I'm sure that makes sense. It made sense to me. And I haven't even had my second cup of coffee yet. So I'm going to move over to Jessica for a moment. You know what? Before I come to you, Jessica, with a question, I wanted to draw attention to, I see Michael put something in the chat here that I have a sneaking suspicion is going to be of interest to people. Michael says, as someone who is currently hiring sales professionals who can be later in life or experienced and seasoned, as we like to say, what is the best way to attract that talent pool to get the word out and give people out of work a chance to continue in the industry that they love in a unique new company and business model? I love this question. Anybody want to have at it?
So the best way to get people to apply right now is everything online, right? The most common I hear right now for job postings is, of course, Indeed.com, but also I would utilize LinkedIn Jobs. A lot of people on there are looking for work, and a lot of people on there are hiring, and you can customize that to say, you know, someone with 10 plus years of experience, if you're trying to market to that candidate pool, I guess. But I don't know anything about specifically going after that target market, but those would be the platforms I would use. If anybody comes to me and says they're looking for a job, I tell them to look at LinkedIn Jobs first.
Excellent. Thank you. I have to add this, Michael, I love this question. And I like to get like really, really creative outside. We have to go to the LinkedIn Jobs. What Jessica said is perfectly right on target. But I also like to get really creative in using our connections, right? Doing what you're doing right here, right now, typing that into the chat was brilliant. And it got me, who happens to run a community for meeting professionals in transition, to think, man, I've got to talk to Michael. Maybe he should be a guest expert in my community to expose what he has to these incredibly talented people. So these connections that you're making, I think, are ultimately the best way to get the absolute best candidates. Nancy, I did see your hand. What did you want to add?
Yeah, you nailed it, Heather. I would just say reverse networking, right? How would you network to find the job, and then just back into that. do the same thing. Who do you know? Who do you know who knows who? And kind of strategically network for that. By the way, I don't know if that's Mike Shannon from the Copley Marriott, but if it is, hi, I used to work with him a long time ago, but it might be someone different.
It might be. So, all right, Joanne, I've got a question for you that comes actually from Pam, that in the pre-questions. She wants to know how to navigate opportunities to ensure that you don't react, but rather strategically figure out the right fit. I think it's a great question. Job opportunity websites can be overwhelming and occasionally discouraging. So she wants to get more strategic. Do you have any ideas for her?
I think I understand what she's asking. And let's face it, when you're in a job search, especially if you're in a necessary job search, your reaction is to apply for pretty much anything you definitely qualify for, and maybe some even pushing it. Because there's that I don't want to say desperation, but fear, concern, stress, certainly. So a lot of times you feel like doing that shotgun approach, but I totally agree with what Nancy said earlier about, people will say to me when I'm preparing them for an interview or something like that, and they'll say something about, well, if I don't say this or I do say this, which is usually more me telling them they should say something, and they go, well, what if they don't like it? And I totally agree with Nancy. It's like, do you want to work there if you have to be somebody other than who you are? So I think really looking at the job and going, is this a job I truly want, or I feel I have to apply for? Is this a company that my values agree with their value statements and their reality? I think that's where the strategy is. And when people kind of pushed me, yeah, but I really need a job. And I said, do you want to find out 6 months from now that you do not belong there? It's not going to be good for either of you, whether you decide to leave or they decide you need to leave. So I think it's very important that you still look for a good to great fit.
Joanne, I love that answer. And I specifically like really looking at your values and making sure that fit is strategic. So fantastic. Jessica, I have a question for you from Doug. He wants to know what techniques to consider as a top remote candidate when a job posting doesn't say anything about the eligibility of accepting remote candidates. They kind of getting creative to open their minds to the possibility that remote could be their best option. What do you think?
I honestly think that that's something that's starting to go away. With having COVID right now, everybody's going remote, especially in the technology and data space. It's pretty common that everybody's remote and doesn't have a plan of when they're going to be reporting back into the office. Some job postings will say remote within a certain time zone, so you could target those ones. But if it's remote in general, I would still apply for it. If it doesn't say remote, it's probably just that. It's not remote, and they probably want someone who's in the same area as their HQ. But each job posting should have something about location on it. I think it's very rare that something wouldn't have a location on it, but if it doesn't, I would guess it's probably remote then.
Okay, thank you. You know what? Stay unmuted, because I have in the chat area here, or I mean in the Q&A, I have 2 additional questions that I really think should go to you. Okay, so Jasmine wants to know, would it be smart to have a resume created for different positions? If so, what resume should be posted on your LinkedIn?
I think this goes back to the first question about mirroring your LinkedIn to your resume. I think it's okay to have different resumes for different positions, and your LinkedIn profile being what jobs you've had and having everything accurate on that. But you can change your qualifications or what you did in that role to tailor to that specific position that you're applying for. A lot of people on their LinkedIn profiles don't put content underneath each job, and I think that's okay too. A lot of recruiters are looking at your tenure there and your job titles there. You don't have to literally copy and paste your resume there. That's not what I meant.
No, I think that's a really, really good response. And on top of that, this is a question that I was going to get to in a little bit, but here's another backup of it here. What would you say are the top 3 most compatible industries to corporate travel that would be the most natural transition?
Yeah, I actually saw who posted that, and I think I might know that person. So the top 3, of course, what I'm going to tell you is the technology space. Software and technology is not going anywhere. It's not. I think that there's so many different fields of technology that you could get into and that your skill set would be transferable to. Obviously, hospitality, being in that space, you know that there's a ton of technology that goes into hotels and airlines. You could go to Micros or Sabre, or there's technology and POS platforms that your skill set would be absolutely transferable into. So I would say hospitality and travel technology. The healthcare space is not going anywhere right now. They have a ton of technology that's not going anywhere. A lot of them are startup companies and will take entry-level type candidates who maybe don't have experience in that space. And then I guess the third one, I would say B2B tech or data in general. The marketing technology space is a super hot space with customer data platforms and marketing automation. All of that stuff, again, is going nowhere. A lot of these companies are looking for people who have relationships with specific hotels and airlines. And if you can find that niche job and say that you have those relationships, and I know the CEO at this company, and I know the COO at this company, that can get your foot in the door because your relationship there are more important than someone that's been selling a technology, because you can learn that stuff, but if you have the relationships already, that puts you ahead of the competition, so to speak.
Excellent. Okay, so we've got a couple that are coming in here through the chat. What time frame do you recommend? I think this could go for anybody, so just raise your hand if you like it. What time frame do you recommend before you follow up regarding a job that you're interested in? I'm utilizing LinkedIn to a great extent. Okay, you know what? Just go for it, Jessica. Okay. You were fastest on the buzzer.
So when you see a job posting on LinkedIn, probably 7 times out of 10, if you look over to the right, it's going to tell you who posted it. Mm-hmm. Go to their profile and add them, or send them a connection request, maybe even put a little note in it. That would be your first step. The second step would be to go to the hiring company's website and look up who the hiring team is. Find their name and then add them on LinkedIn. If you can't find it from their website because it's a major corporation, start looking inside the employees on their LinkedIn page and putting in some titles that you think might be relevant and add them all. Connect to them all. In terms of when you apply and you want to follow up, I would say wait 2 business days and then follow up on the 3rd and then do another follow-up a week later. But you should absolutely follow up with the people that are posting it, because a lot of times people don't do that and it's just another resume in a pile.
Love it. Okay, outstanding. Nancy, you want to add on?
That's excellent advice, JZ. I really like that. It's a solid plan. Love it. Thank you. The only thing I would add, I feel like we're not talking enough about, and we're probably getting to it, networking and the power of your network. And it ties back into what Jessica was just talking about. I believe that if you just post for the job, there's 400, 500, 2,000, however many other people also going for that same job. So we talked about, great tips and ways to stand out. And once you find the job that you think you want, great tactics on how to get it or get moved to the top. The only thing I would add is you have got to leverage your network. And I mean, everyone. If you don't know how to use LinkedIn to find a first, second, third connection, take a minute to figure that out and then use those connections. And I would add, don't wait till the job is posted. If you think you want to get into healthcare tech or the third one that Jessica mentioned, I was thinking about consumer services, so that's why I just mentioned that. If you want to get into one of those industries, start now. Who do you know? Who do you know who you know? Strategically network like a ninja to get yourself out there. So before the job's even posted, you're already on somebody's name, you're already on somebody's list. There is another tool coming out for that. It's not ready yet, but you sit down, get a spreadsheet or Post-its, whatever it is. You can't wait till the job's posted. You're already at a disadvantage.
Love that. Nancy Joanne, we're on a networking thing.
Yeah, well, LinkedIn networking.
Good.
I cannot believe how many people do not go on LinkedIn regularly who are job searching or trying to build a business. I am shocked to find that people don't know their passwords because they haven't been on LinkedIn. They don't even have a photograph up. And I know a lot of people will not connect with people who do not have photos of themselves up there. And if you are job searching, you need to be on that site at least Monday through Friday, at least 5 days a week. And you need to be commenting, you need to be sharing relevant things, you need to be visible. And I'm just shocked how many don't. And then they go, well, no, it is one of the greatest creations for job searching that's ever existed. But you have to be visible. Get on there, share information, comment on someone's thing, have your picture on it for Pete's sake. Go on daily. Sorry.
I would like to add to that because I feel very passionate about this too. You absolutely should have a picture on there and it should be current. And I would also, your connections, you should be networking. They don't have to be people that you know and have met in person. When I'm a recruiter and I'm looking at your LinkedIn profile, if you're in sales and you have less than 200 connections, that's a red flag. And in fact, I've even had hiring managers tell me before, I have no mutual connections to this person. This isn't who I'm looking for. They'll actually see how many connections you have to them to see if you're relevant in that space as well. So that might be something to consider. But like if you look at my profile, it'll tell you that I have way over 500 connections. You should be connecting with people in your network and in your space.
Yeah, I love this. Obviously, you all understand how passionate our panelists are about this. So I'm going to give them Kim's question to think on for a moment, and then I'm going to draw some attention to some good things happening over in the chat. So Kim had a question about best ways to network during the pandemic. And obviously, we all know LinkedIn is going to be one of the top ones that these three are going to recommend for you. But what do you also think about Clubhouse or any other new things that are going out there if you have any suggestions? While you were thinking about that, I want to draw attention to a great suggestion that David here has given to Michael. I love this suggestion. Michael, who has some sales positions available, volunteer where you think these people, the top level people are going to be, maybe TAMs, or other associations that have a plethora of people in transition right now that are really amazing. David, I love that suggestion. And I also had a great suggestion here. I hope it didn't flow up too much here. Gail had a great suggestion about joining groups on LinkedIn. Don't use LinkedIn only for your connections, but join in the groups and in the conversations within those groups. I found them to be very effective as well. So now that you're ready, anyone want to weigh in on additional platforms? Nancy.
So all of the social media, I call it the social media, I'm old school. Anything on social media where you are having some kind of a meaningful conversation is great. I wouldn't recommend spamming just to be seen or heard, or sending rando requests to people on LinkedIn without some kind of I saw you here, we have this person in common. I'm very old school. I love LinkedIn. I'm on there often. It is a very excellent tool for me in my business. I also recommend you go old school. And by old school, I mean a spreadsheet. So some of my clients that I coach, we have a spreadsheet. They write down everybody they know, and then they put them into different buckets. Is this person a connector? Is this person a coach? Is this person somebody who can be a mentor? ABC. And then we rank where they live. Because when I was traveling a lot, and we will travel again, I would be able to sort on the town I was going to and make sure I stayed connected with those people. Every time I was in Chicago, I would know to look up this person. Every time I was in New York, I would know to look up this person. Little less relevant now, but eventually it will be again. And then rank them. How important is this person to you and your job search or whatever it is that you're networking for? And if it's 3 stars, then make sure that you're reaching out to them once every couple of weeks, again, with something relevant. Not, hey, just checking in. That's, but hey, I saw this article, I thought you might like it, or would love to set up a time for some coffee talk, whatever the case may be. We are all craving human connection right now, all of us. We're zoomed out. Our world's been blown up literally. Hey, how about a 15-minute cup of coffee over the phone? Zoom or no Zoom, let's just talk. That goes so far, so far. Don't be afraid to do it. I'd be shocked if people didn't take you up on it.
Totally agree with that, Nancy. Thank you. We've got a bunch of questions that I want to get to. We've got about 15 minutes left. This question has to do with, do you feel that the open to work on a LinkedIn profile has been beneficial to find new talent for people who are trying to get into another industry who's shown interest that can be transferable? Example, hospitality to a corporate industry. What are our thoughts? Jessica, I see on your face that you have an opinion. Would you like to answer?
This is something that we've discussed before privately, so I know that we all have opinions on this. Okay, so I don't like seeing the green circle. I'm just going to be honest. I don't like seeing the open to work. I will tell you what I do like though. So recruiters and some hiring managers have a more premium level of LinkedIn that we pay for called LinkedIn Recruiter. And in there is a button that you can select on your profile to let recruiters and hiring managers outside of your current organization know that you are open to new opportunities. You can put the job titles you're looking for. You can put the location, full-time, contract, part-time. That's kind of like a secret way of letting everyone know that you're looking without broadcasting it to everyone on LinkedIn that you're out of work. So my suggestion would be going that route instead of having the green ring.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good one. I like that. And I was going to tell you, don't mute yourself, Jessica, because I got one more over here in the chat area. Can you talk about recruiters not responding or ghosting you after an interview? After how long would you accept that you didn't get the job?
I would first like to say you're working with the wrong recruiter if they do that to you. You can't ghost people. That's not nice. If you don't hear from them within a week or a week and a half, I think it's probably safe to say you didn't get the job. I know that I try to follow up with my candidates at least once a week. I know that the hiring process is sometimes delayed, but you still need to have a touch point with your candidates. So if you're not hearing from their recruiter and you reach out to them 2 or 3 times and they don't answer you, they're ignoring you, just to put it bluntly. So I would take that as you did not get the job and you should move on.
Thank you.
I have candidates that ghost me too, and I don't understand. You can try texting them, you can call them, you can email. I know sometimes my emails go to spam. So try calling and leaving a voicemail and sending a text message. We all know that we look at our phone. So if you're not responding to a text message, you're being ignored and you should just move on. And at that point, do you really want to work for that company anyways if they haven't given you a response in a week or 2? That would be a red flag for me to be joining that organization anyways.
So to add on to that, we've got an anonymous attendee who wants to know if sending an old school note to the home address of the hiring manager is too much. Opinions from anyone?
I would not do that. I would not recommend doing that.
Wow, not what I thought.
Well, again, I'm more focused in the software and tech industry, and I think that the hospitality industry may be different for that, but from the tech standpoint, I wouldn't do that. Emails are what we recommend. Short, sweet, and if you're in a group interview, you send the email directly to each person and change it up a little bit, not a group email.
Yeah, and I love that you mentioned that it's very specific to the industry, because I'm personally a fan of doing things that other people don't. And so you don't want to do something that's creepy, but something that's over and above. Sometimes a handwritten note is nice. It's a little awkward right now when people are working from home. So that's the creepy part for me. Joanne, I have a question for you that I want to make sure gets asked. And this is coming from Senga. Will hotels consider meeting and event managers for sales roles? So how can you break through the you don't have sales experience barrier when we really do sell the experience?
Well, not only that, but you have an inside track because you know how a planner thinks.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, that's huge. It's just like I tell people who are moving from hotels into planning, you've got that inside track. You know how a hotel works. And that only helps you when you're a planner. But I think the reverse is true too. You may not have a traditional sales experience, but I think, again, depending on who you are, you can connect dots to your past experience. But I really think one of the values that you are bringing is, you know how a planner thinks, you know what they look for, you know what is important to them, you know how they're going to choose a venue or service because you have been in their shoes. So that's my thoughts.
I love that answer. So Valentina right now has a question about what is the best way to find a recruiter? Now I'm going to assume that Jessica, you're a good person to answer this one, but if anyone else wants to add in as well.
I'm actually probably not the best person to answer this. I work for a third-party recruiting firm. So the way that we generate revenue is through the companies that hire us to find specific talent. So most of the time I'm going after their preferred profile for specific openings. I do have some candidates that reach out to me and ask me for help. I'll give them recommendations on where to go or keep them in the loop with opportunities. Sometimes we do things like blasting out their resumes to hiring managers within our network that may have an opening we don't know about. But in terms of finding a specific recruiter to go out and help you find a job, that's not my wheelhouse. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. And actually, I just see here that Michael is elaborating on the question that Senga just asked about the transference of role, the talents of someone who is a planner into the sales role in the hotel industry. And Michael says he's currently interviewing several meeting planners for sales roles because of the things that Joanne was just mentioning about some of those intrinsic value that they bring to the table with the skills. And so definitely don't let it hold you back. And I can't help myself, but there was a recent gender study out there about how men are much better in general of applying for things that they may not be 100% qualified for, meaning that they may have the three fingers that Jessica mentioned, right? They may have like me 60, 70% of the qualifications, and they're going to go for it. And I'm just saying this because I heard that women tend to wait until not apply for something unless they have like 90 to 100% of those qualifications. And I think you're doing yourself a disservice. Bump up your confidence. You know what you have. If something really appeals to you, go for it. And then tell them why they need to hire you. Just my opinion. So we have just a few minutes left, and we still have a couple of really great questions. So we had a question that's a follow-up on the green dot here. So, oh, okay. Did you just reply back, Jessica? Okay, so.
Yeah, I think I answered that.
Okay, could you answer it out loud for some other people who might be feeling that too, just real quickly?
Sure. It's not the green dot. The green dot's just showing you're online on LinkedIn.
Okay.
This would be a ring that you opt in to put around your profile picture that says #open to work.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. And I see some people are taking your advice on that and making some changes there. So I want to just make sure that we get this question asked because I know you all are amazing. You have incredible experience and wealth of information. We could spend 3 hours on this topic. So I'd like you each to answer, are there any other resources that you recommend for people that they can find the best career for them? Any other things that they should be looking for, any connections, any resources that you'd like to share with people before they head off into the wild? Who'd like to go first? Nancy.
So there's one resource that I have loved for many years and it changed my life. So there's a difference between a job now to put food on the table, which is very important. And for that, do what you need to do. If you would like to reimagine your career and do what you love and only what you love, which you can do, I promise you, there's a tool called it's called the Strengths Finder, High Five. So if you Google High Five Strengths Finder, it's from the old Marcus Buckingham book called Now Discover Your Strengths. And this really helps you hone in on your strengths and what you love to do. Again, because you love to do it, you're very good at it. And the cycle goes on and on and on. And then you use that to find the job where you can be spending your time doing what you love to do. If either in addition to that or after that, download the tool that I mentioned that's on my website. That'll help you kind of narrow it down a little bit. And then you can use that for your 2 lines on LinkedIn. You can use that for your opening for your cover letter. You can use that for whatever you need to do to just kind of in 2 sentences, here's what I'm good at, here's why you matter, here's why it matters, and here's so what.
Excellent, thank you. Jessica, do you want to go next?
I don't really have much to add on this.
Okay.
On this right now.
No worries. You've given plenty of amazing information. People are chomping at the bit to ask you more. Joanne, did you have any resources or anything that you'd like to add?
Yeah, here's one that I have found to be literally fascinating. There's a writer, speaker, author by the name of Sally Hogshead, who has done a lot of research on fascination and how to fascinate. And she has a tool on her computer, on her website that you may have to pay $20 or something for, but she's divided out what makes us fascinating into different grids. And you 2 answer a survey and it shows what your 2 are. And she describes them so well. Like when I noticed one of mine, for anyone who knows me will be shocked, it was rebel. And for me, that was like, stop laughing, you guys. And they don't even know me that well, but it was rebel. And for me, as I moved my company forward, for example, and when you're an entrepreneur, you know, that's the same, is I was like, wow, that's actually one of the reasons people find me fascinating. And all of us are fascinating in our own ways. And it's a really great thing to look at. I would strongly advise it. It's also a lot of fun, but it really has real stuff you can use too.
That sounds awesome. If you don't mind, Joanne, just typing in, if you don't have the link, it's fine, but just, is it Sally Hogshead? If you could just type in her name.
Sally Hogshead. Let me see if I can find it real quick.
Great, thank you. So for those of you, we're getting close to the end. I'm going to transfer this over to David Reederman now to take us out, but please make sure that you save the chat. So because there are amazing resources in there for you, that you do check out the TAMS website. And thank you so much to Joanne and to Nancy and to Jessica and for David and Phyllis for putting this all together. And of course to Jill for making it happen. We appreciate you. And for everyone listening today, thank you. David?
Yes, I second that emotion. Congratulations and thank you to our esteemed panelists for such a phenomenal program today. To Heather for moderating, for Joanne, Jessica, and Nancy for being such amazing participants with such great information to share with our community here. And of course to Phyllis Tess, who I co-designed this program with. I think there was a lot of information and we probably could have gone on for a few more hours. So maybe that's something to think about in the future. So I just want to give a real quick plug to TAMS as an organization. It was formed in COVID, and Travel and Meeting Society, which will put the URL in the chat box. It's like the Woodstock of our industry. Everyone is welcome. Everyone has a voice. We'd love to see people volunteer, get involved. It's certainly done Volunteering is the cornerstone of my career. And so with that, I'm just going to close it out and thank all of our attendees for spending this hour with us. We hope you got some good information out of it, and please stay in touch with us. We'd love to hear more from you. Thank you all very much and have a super, super day.